big policy issues. A big one right now in both chambers of Congress is the Planned Parenthood debate.
Yeah.
The House voted to defund the organization last week. You voted in favor of that as well. Why?
Well, first of all, this is an opportunity that we have to actually take funding away from Planned Parenthood and investigate the atrocities that are going on. I don't know if anyone has actually seen those videos. If you have a moment, I think it's worth just taking a look and seeing what's happening, and take those fundings and put it into other clinics that provide women's health issues, so that we're not cutting those aspects off. But this is something that is incredibly important to me. It's not a right or left issue. It's a right or wrong issue. It's morally important to me. I had a meeting where I talked to some women in Utah. We had a town hall meeting, and a lady came to me and said, "Mia, I want you to know that the work that you're doing is incredibly important. I was sick. I delivered my son at 20 weeks, and I had 2 hours with him. I want you to know that he wasn't just a fetus. He wasn't a work in progress. He was a young boy." And that really hit me. And so if we're not there protecting life, liberty, if we're not there first and foremost protecting life, what's the point? We have to be a society that values life, or else we cease to be Americans.
I talked to you and other members of the congressional delegation about this, and you all have said that Planned Parenthood does provide valuable resources to the community, education, health services. So if we do defund the organization, how do you ensure those services are still available? Again,
it's not just cutting off the funding, but making sure that they're put into other areas and other clinics that can provide those services. But again, I don't want us to lose focus from what's actually happening. And what's actually happening is that there are children that are having their brain tissue extracted while they're still alive. There are children that are kept alive and are pretty much being tortured in order to get viable organs so that they can sell. We have to make sure the wool is not pulled over our eyes, and we have a decision to make here in Utah and in America, is if we are going to allow these things to happen. Again, we can make sure that we address the issues that are valuable, but we cannot ignore what's actually happening. And if somebody's not going to fight for the life of these young children and the torturing that's happening there, then what credibility do you have to stand up and say you're going to fight for Utah or you're going to fight for American lives?
We're approaching a funding deadline. Is this going to lead to another government shutdown, in your opinion?
I've kept the two issues separate. The House voted to remove the funding from Planned Parenthood and put it into other clinics and other areas so we can continue to fund women's health. The House actually voted for the baby born alive, so that every child that's born alive can actually get the same treatment. And hopefully we can keep moving government while we address these issues. That's the government I know that works well. I would hate.
So just to clarify, you do not want to see this leading to a government shutdown?
I do not want to see, absolutely not. We've got veterans that really need, we need to keep promises to. We've got senior citizens that we need to keep those promises to. And the problem that we have is that you've got an administration and some members of Congress that want to tie the two together. And I think it's a sad day if we are going to shut government down to protect an organization that is actually participating in these horrific crimes in order to protect these agencies. It's a terrible day if we're going to shut government down to protect that organization.
On the campaign trail, we talked a lot about education, and an important issue to you. You've introduced a couple bills, one to make college more affordable.
Right.
Talk about that.
So I've introduced three bills. I've co-sponsored 61 bills. I've actually introduced authored 3 bills. One is in financial services. 2 of them are in education, because I went out and made some promises to Utah that I was going to do everything I can to reduce the price of education. So the first one is Know Before You Go. And the second one is the College Affordable Act. And both of those are aimed to reducing the cost of tuition. One is through adding free markets and competition in education, and the other one is to remove the regulations that drive up the cost of education and making sure that those cost benefits go to reducing the cost of tuition.
Okay. Earlier this month, I did a story on this. I talked with Dave Hansen. The Utah Democratic Party launched a campaign questioning your use of public funds. It all centered around a plane ticket back to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. I'd like to get your public comment on that.
Well, first of all, I'm glad you asked that question because we can talk about it and make sure that the public knows exactly what is going on. I go back to Washington to work. That's what I go back to do. And when a question arises, I value taxpayer dollars. I believe that taxpayer dollars are sacred. So instead of going through and questioning, I return those funds. Made sure that the taxpayers were made whole. You know, I don't want to go back and forth as to how much work was being done or, you know, what was happening, but we put policies in place in our office to make sure that this doesn't happen again. So it's just one of those things that you have to make sure you dot your I's, cross your T's, and err on the side of caution, and make sure that you are doing everything you can to make sure the taxpayers are whole.
Glenn, if I can just comment very quickly on that. We knew into this that there were going to be attacks on Mia, there were going to be attacks on our family, and the harder she works, the more she stands up for Utah values, the more aggressive those attacks are going to become. So we're prepared for this.
Comes with the territory, I guess.
Yeah, it is politics for sure. And just one other question on that note. They're saying, you know, if you did nothing wrong and you had official business there to release proof of that. Do you see that as your obligation to do so?
You know, again, to me, it's digging. It's digging. These are people that are asking for proof. They're not on my side. They actually, you know, this is the opposition. So again, I wanted to make sure that I was doing exactly what I needed to do for the taxpayers and make sure that they were whole. If there's any question, I didn't want anyone questioning my integrity. I said, err on the side of caution, pay it all back, and be done with it. We've got so many other things that we need to take care of. We've got the Iran issue. We've got Planned Parenthood. We've got to make sure that government's not shut down. We've got all of these things. I mean, we've got a budget we need to balance. There are so many things that, you know, hardworking Americans that are trying to put food on the table are depending on Congress to address. And, you know, this is, again, it's important for us to do everything we can to work hard. And I'm going to continue to work hard for Utah.
All right. So great to have the two of you on Inside Utah Politics.
Thanks
for being with us this morning.
Thank you.